Great, welcome to Redesigning Storycrafter. I'm DMA. We'll be talking today about some of the issues, the changes that I've made. In particular, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a difference in the way that the page is displayed. When you go to beta.storycrafter.com, you'll see the new Storycrafter logo at the top, which is just text, just different color text, and just a different format. And if you had the ability to look at the source, and you probably do, even if you're not familiar with how to do it, you would see that I'm using an HTML5 document format, and you'll be able to open it up and see just a clean separation style-wise, and how things are going to be quite different than the current Storycrafter. It's just much simpler HTML, very easy for the browser to parse, and very small. I am using font face, which lets me load different fonts. Fonts will play a big part of the new Storycrafter. So let me just show you what I've done. Codeignitor being great as a great foundation, but it had a little lacking as far as template systems were concerned. I looked at some of the template systems, and they were all like pretty rudimentary in terms of the separation of MVC. So they would let you do things like load a CSS file, or load a script file, or whatever, right from your controller. And to me, that kind of defeats the point of having the separation of a model, the view, and the controller. The controller really kind of is agnostic to the view. It really shouldn't care about whether or not it's showing an HTML page, or whether or not it's showing it's giving a JSON response, or whether or not it's interacting on a web service. The controller is just application logic, and it manages the calls to the models. That's it. And if it starts to do things like call HTML functions or format forms and stuff like that in HTML, well, it's kind of like you defeated the point of having MVC. So I designed a pretty robust HTML UI handler for the time being. This is just a factory class, and all it does is it just creates a UI HTML handler. This is going to be right now it doesn't do any detection, but I'm going to add in pretty short order. I'm going to add in a JSON UI handler too, so that I'll be able to use my controller. And instead of the controller, when it sends this UI.send response, instead of sending an HTML response back to the browser like this one does, it'll send the JSON response back, so that I'll be able to pretty much access any parts of the site using JSON and load it inside of a frame or a dialog box or whatever. So also, you can see here I've added some language support in, so that down the line, if I ever want to translate Storycrafter into different languages, then I'll be able to. That I'll probably also key all the stories, at least all the stories, off of language, so that you can select the language, or it'll automatically record what language you were browsing the site in when you create a story, and then users who come to the site and are viewing it in that language will be presented those stories. That's not something that's going to be probably in this first release, but it'll be something that we'll look at as we go. Okay, so that's basics of it. This HTML class just implements the interface UI handler, and lets me load in all of the resources, HTML resources that I need, and provides a pretty abstract way for the controller to interact with the HTML page. In other words, it doesn't even really have to know that's an HTML page. All the controller is going to do is access models, set variables, and tell the UI to send a response. And it could be pretty much ignorant of how that response gets sent out. And that's all based on how I've developed this UI handler. Now, if you take a look at the configuration in the UI handler, I have one configuration file per UI interface. This is the one for the HTML configuration, and it defines the type of configuration, some of the data, some of the CSS and JavaScript and blah blah blah, and everything that we're going to need in order to just process some basic things. These are the default settings, and then down here it lets you override all of those settings on a per controller and per controller/method level, so that you can replace any of the templates or functions or views on a per controller / method level. And so that's how I'm going to go ahead and present that. When I went ahead and finished that up, so that's pretty solid now. Tested it out. It's pretty fast. And did the language. So I think we're pretty good to go now. I'm ready to get into starting to do some of the data modeling, and my next video will be on the data modeling and how the changes are going to be different as far as the data structure is concerned from the previous Storycraft to this version 2.0. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And I'm probably just going to record the next segment right now.